Hey, what's up YouTubers? Today we're gonna make our own model view controller, and I'm in NetBeans and I've created a new project called MVC. Inside source files I have my index PHP file, and I'll just type 1 in there, and in my web browser it's under this page and we have 1. Okay, nothing here yet. What we're gonna do first of all is make it so that we can type a name, like let's say dog, and that will load a controller called dog, and if we were to say /test, it would load the controller dog with the method test, and this should make sense shortly. And to do so, we first have to make an htaccess file to redirect our calls. So I'll do .htaccess, and the first thing we have to do is turn our rewrite engine on. So rewrite engine on, sorry, that's one word, and you need mod rewrite on in your PHP ini file, obviously. And we're going to do a rewrite rule of anything, and we'll send it to index.php. So what's going to happen is anytime they type in a URL, it's really going to go to index.php, and we're going to pass a query string called URL, and this would be dog, okay, for the example I just gave a minute ago. So we'll do URL equals $1, and we'll do query string append and symbolic links. You might also want to add this. I'll just do it real quick. Rewrite condition, what's that, request file name, not a directory, not a file, not a link. Okay, what this basically does is, oops, this can't have a Y. It's not going to redirect us with this argument if it's a actual physical directory or an actual physical file. So anyways, let's go ahead and make our folders. So let's start with controllers, models, and views, and I'm going to make one more folder and call it libs, short for library. Okay, I'll save this, and let's see what happens if we go to /dog. Good, it's at the index page all the time. That's what we want. So what we want to do is get the string, get URL. So URL equals get URL, and let's just echo URL. Okay, refresh, and we have that. That's exactly what we want. So what we're going to do is make a new controller. I'll make a empty PHP file in the controllers. I'm just going to call this index for our main page, and I'm going to type CLS, which is short for class, press the tab key, and it does it all for us. And I'll call this index, and just press enter to get through this, and I'll say echo we are in index. Okay, so here's our index controller. I can go ahead and close that, and what we need to do is require the controller if we're at the URL. So you see I'm refreshing, let's go to index, and it just says index, but what we have to do is require controllers /URL.php. Make sure we have no errors. Okay, refresh, no errors, and we can instantiate a new controller. So I'll say controller equals new, what was that called, index, or we want to call it the name of the call. So let's see if that works, and we are in the index. Cool. Real quick, I'm going to make another controller, and I'm going to call this help. Whoops, PHP, and CLS once again in the tab key, and I'll just call this help. Enter, enter, and echo we are inside help. Okay, so we have that created. I'll refresh, and let's go to /help, and we are inside help. Pretty good so far. Now if we want to call a method in here, such as other, we need to handle this slash here. So while we get our URL, you can see it's help/other. The first argument's always going to be the controller name. The second argument will always be a method in the controller. So to do so, I'm going to explode the URL. So explode URL. Shoot, I don't remember the order. Let's see, explode the delimiter in the string. Okay. I want to explode by the slash of URL. So we're just gonna redo this. I'll just pop this in here. Okay. And let's do a print R of URL. So refresh, and we have help and other. Now the first argument will always be the controller, so I can always require URL 0, new URL 0, and let's see, refresh, and we're inside help, and right now this isn't doing anything even though we have more arguments. So what we're going to do is check if those exist. So if is set URL 1 controller, and then we're going to call URL 1 function. That looks kind of crazy. What this really translates into is controller function. That's what this above is translating into. So let me open up help real quick and create a new function. Oops. Public function other echo. We are inside other. And save. Refresh. Help on line 9. What did I do? We are inside other. I forgot my things. Refresh. And here we are inside the other now method. So, and if we wanted to do more slashes, we could kind of repeat the same pattern where we would say we'd first check if there's an argument. So what this would do is, here's other, and if we had, like, let's say a number here, 10, this would actually pass the value 10 inside of other. This is up to you if you want to do that. And I'm first going to check if that value is set for number 2, because we have to check that to see if we have to pass the value instead of calling the function first. So if set URL 2, we'll do URL 2. Okay. And in here, let's just say arg equals false. So optional arguments, and echo optional will be arg. So we're just gonna see if we can get an argument in here. Refresh, and here we go. Optional 10. We are inside other optional. Let me do some line breaks so this is easier to read. Slash br. Okay, refresh, and we are inside other, and it's calling optional 10, and it looks like it's calling it twice because I didn't do this wrong. Else, we'll pop this little thing in here. Okay, refresh, and we get that. Cool. Now what do you do if there's one that doesn't exist? If we go to help, undefined method help, oh, that's kind of weird. Look at that, backslash. We're gonna have to clean off this backslash. It looks like help. So we're gonna check if a thing's empty. For a quick and easy hack, I'm just going to do a trim of the slash. So I'm gonna actually put this back how I had it. That, and I'm going to do an R trim. So URL equals R trim, which means right trim of URL, and we're gonna trim the slash. Just a quick and dirty way to do that. Let's see if that fixes it. Help, and without the slash help. That'll be good. If they had a bunch of slashes, I guess it still works. Shouldn't be a problem. Okay, now we need to probably encapsulate this into a bootstrap object to make it nice. So I'll say new PHP file inside the libs. I'll just call this bootstrap. And CLS tab bootstrap enter enter. Okay. And in the index file, I'm gonna grab all this junk, cut it, pop it in bootstrap, and I'm gonna source format. This will fix all my tabs up. Okay, so get the URL, trim the URL, explode it, load the controller. What we're gonna want to do is check if the file exists. So file equals this, and we're going to check if file exists of file, then we'll require file. Okay. Else throw new exception, and we're going to say the file does not exist. However you handle errors is going to be up to you. So refresh, and if we go into test, that shouldn't, sorry, I didn't even instantiate the bootstrap. That's embarrassing. So up in the index file, we need, let's just call this app equals new bootstrap. And when the bootstrap is constructed, it checks all this junk. So refresh. Class bootstrap not found. Once again, I forgot to require this. So require lib/bootstrap.php. Try that once more. Okay, and test does not exist. Help exists. Excellent. Help/other looks good. And we have an index one. What we can do also is, if there is not a controller, we could create an error controller. So I'd call this error, and we'll just kind of do the same thing. CLS error, enter enter, and echo this is an error. Okay, and this will handle all our errors. So back in our bootstrap, instead of throwing an exception, we'll just do require controllers/error.php, and we'll say controller equals new error, and I think that'll work. Index 222 not found. Oh wait, what'd that say? This is an error. Okay, we're in the error controller. On line 21, we're getting a not found. Oh, let's just do a return false so it stops doing stuff. There we go. So we'll have an error controller there. I can hide this for debugging. Okay, save, and MVC. So this is nothing here. If we go to index, there it is. If we go to help, there it is, and other, there it is. And that gives you a basic idea, just a quick and dirty way to do some controllers. I would maybe break this apart, and you shouldn't have your controller name in here. This should be configured in a metadata, so that if you ever wanted to change your directories, you'd change it from one file, like a config.ini file or something. So that's good for the controllers for now. What we want to do is have a view as well. So let's see, index bootstrap. To get a view, there's a couple ways we could go about it. I want my view accessible from the controller. So what I'm going to do is actually make a new PHP file, call this controller, and this is going to be the base controller that every controller is a child of. Oops, PHP, CLS, controller, enter, enter. And what I'm going to do is just echo main controller. Okay. And in our other controllers, error, this has to extend controller, extends. Okay. help has to extends controller, and what else do we have? Error, index, help. There it is. And so we have to construct the parent. So I'll do parent construct. What this does is it will construct the parent controller. Let me give you an example real quick. Let me put these in all of those. Parent construct, and where's the error? Parent construct. Okay, I'm going to close a couple files to try to simplify some of this. I'm holding Control and Shift and pressing down to duplicate a line, by the way, if you're wondering how I'm doing that. So we're going to include the controller, and let's say refresh. So back to our index and our main controller. Okay, here's our main controller. If I refresh, we get our main controller properties, and something in here, if we don't have this, refresh. Wait, did that work? That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I'll just leave this like this for now so we don't get carried away. The main controller is going to have the view, so we'll say this view equals new view object, and the view will be a object here, new PHP file called view. Enter. And before we get all confused, we got to make sure we require this. Whoops. View. I'll probably put a note here. Use an autoloader. You'll probably want to use like SPL autoload or something. So back to this, same old thing. CLS view, enter, enter, echo. This is the view. Okay, so here's our controller. Let me just make sure everything works. I refresh. We have a view because we instantiated it inside the base controller. And it might be hard to see what is really happening here. I have some videos on how MVC kind of works. I hope this isn't too confusing. So here's the view. What we're going to do is do a render, a function, so public function render, and we're going to do name, and we are going to require views slash name dot PHP. Okay, and we got the views working. Now we need to make a view, so I'm going to put these in subfolders. So let's say my index page will have an index folder, my error page will have an error folder, so on. So I'll make a new PHP file and call this index.php, and HTML head body blah blah blah. This could be all that stuff, right? You could also include this separately, like if you wanted to do a view new file, call it header, and you could do HTML header body, and we could just say PHP require of views slash header.php. Oops. This is the error. So let's go to error. Okay, we're inside the error, and what we want to do is go here, and we're going to do this view render error slash index. Refresh. Header. This is the error. Cool. And if we wanted to assign some value to the view, we could say this view of message equals this page doesn't exist. Okay. So index PHP in the error area, and I could say PHP echo this because we are in the view object message. Okay, so I'll refresh, and this page doesn't exist. and everything's kind of delegated through each other and mixed and matched. In your controller, actually never mind. In models, I'm going to create a new model for, I guess, help, and I'm going to call this help underscore model. The reason I'm doing this is because if you just call it help, it's going to conflict with the help class. Whoops, what did I just do? Help model in PHP. So CLS tab help model, enter. Okay, and echo help model. And this is where your business logic would lie. Let me close all these because this is getting a bit busy. So what I could say is when we get to other, I could say require of model slash help model dot PHP new help model equals new help model. It's just a dirty way to do it, so that if you need, you can sit around and try to figure out a pretty way to do it. There's just not enough time in this tutorial. I don't want it to get too long. So if we have a model, here's help model. I'm going to make a base model also. So if I could shrink some of these down, our libs folder, we're going to make the base model. So model in PHP, so CLS model, enter. And a model often includes a database, so you might do something like this: database equals new database, but we don't have that set up here. And I can go ahead and close that. In my index file, I got to make sure to include the model. Okay, and once we require this, the help model needs to extends model. Let's refresh and cross our fingers and hope that works. Help. We are inside help and other help model. Cool, we got it to work. I'm going to make this code downloadable at my site. I'll put a link in the description so that you can go through it and try to make it a lot better for yourself. And this is just a very basic structure for a MVC example. Thanks for watching, guys. If this helped, give me a thumbs up because I'm burnt out from trying to talk about this. Thanks.